So welcome to the meeting, and thank you for overcoming those technical difficulties. So Haim is an Israeli anti-Zionist. He's a research professor at SOAS and also a founder member of Jewish Network for Palestine that's co-hosting this meeting. He's the author of An Army Like No Other, which is a critical history of the occupation army and published in late 2020 by Verso. I'll put the link to the book up in the chat. Haim, welcome to our meeting. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks. I'm not sure why the order was changed, but that's fine. I will try not to repeat what excellent speakers already said. First of all, what is happening is no longer about Gaza or even Palestine. It's about the West against the rest. And Israel is just part of this. The decline of the West, and especially of the US, is glaringly obvious. The empire, despite more than 1,000 military bases, is losing power to the new global South/East, militarily, financially, morally, politically. Israel is both the most aggressive of the Western bloc, as well as the one who seemingly controls most of the Western agenda, which is strange because it's the smallest country in the West. The agenda is the war on terror, limited nuclear strikes, collective punishment, war on civilians and non-governmental organizations of resistance, the use of starvation, water, genocide, ecocide, domicide, herbicide, and scholasticide as weapons of war, political assassinations, techno mass terror, you name it, they've done it, and they have made it a common feature of the West. Now, all these are fair games in the last war of the Western Bloc against the rest of the world, because this is what it is. This started in the 1990s and can only lead to worldwide nuclear war and civilizational decline and probably descent into barbarity on the way. Now, the Western script is very simple. Without the support of the West, of course, nothing can happen in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Yemen, of course, Ukraine, and the many other flashpoints. The period that is most dangerous in imperial life cycles is the decline and fall of great powers, the juncture of temporary vacuum as power shift from an old regime towards a new one. What Marx called all that is solid melts into air. Exactly what we're now seeing around us. This is positively frightening. The old empire is using all its considerable might to terrorize and cudgel the rising powers, which will replace it, no doubt. We see the total collapse of what is mistakenly called law and order or international law, and the political and societal bankruptcy of the rules of the game that they have instigated. The serious attacks starting with 9/11 and leading to the Ukraine takeover by NATO and the US in order to engineer a death blow to Russia is the clearest example. The script requires that the West does all which is illegal, immoral, and even irrational, at the same time speaking incessantly about human rights, democracy, freedom, and so on. So this is now a pattern that we all are aware of on this webinar, but a lot of the population are not aware because they're listening to mainstream media. So I want to talk about dangers and opportunities in a time of change. The period carries the danger of total destruction through fatal combination of ecocide and worldwide nuclear war, something not faced since the 1950s. With 9 countries with nuclear arsenals, and the nature of the atmosphere, both the physical and the political atmosphere, It makes limited nuclear strikes not just a disgusting meme, but the gateway to world destruction. And Israel has instigated this idea of a limited nuclear strike, and it is now planning to do it in Iran. However, at a time of change, it's also possible to see ending of empires like Western capitalism, unipolar imperial rule, and the turning back of the global ecocide. So in Palestine, it brought terrifying genocidal destruction as Israel perceives a chance for expelling all Palestinians. However, Israel shares in the decline of the West and exemplifies it. Zionism, manifesting its barbarity and extreme racism, now self-destructs through making the whole region into a circle of resistance. The demise of Zionism is already here in a death of 1,000 cuts. We can probably talk about it on question time. As societies predicated on genocide are not sustainable. This is very clear. So the period is a period of flux. We have experienced the establishment of the apartheid empire of settler colonial Zionism, which led to a single racist state in Palestine where the Palestinians lack any rights, including the simple right to live. Most people everywhere now understand this. This is universal now, due to the barbarity of the IDF genocidal war in Palestine, Lebanon, and soon somewhere else. Great dissatisfaction exists with the UN, ICJ, and ICC, and is very evident. An urgent change is called for. The global order, such as it was, is collapsing. BRICS and other emerging groups are building a new order, which may well be much more open to the interests of the Palestinians than ever before, and I certainly hope so. What about the two-state solution that the Americans, the Brits, and the Europeans are bubbling about? First, there never was such a solution. It didn't exist then, and it doesn't exist now because Israel killed it in the womb. And the West uses it still as some kind of ploy for supporting Zionist control that spreads over Palestine by the process that you know. Zionist society is now even less inclined towards even a small and insignificant Bantustan. There are no such undercurrents in its political arena or an alternative elite that might move this. The so-called left in Israel is even more keen on Islamophobic conflict with the whole region, with Israel becoming a psychotic genocidal society. Any division of Palestine, any further division of Palestine will just serve to give Zionism a lease of life for rebuilding and returning to its destructive agenda. So despite the fact that it's not existing and it was never in existence, we should be clear, there is no cutting Zionism to size. It should be totally rejected outright. So in conclusion, what is required to have one state in Palestine? What is required is a thorough decolonization of Palestine, an arms embargo on Israel, a democratic union of all Palestinian social and military forces, a successful BDS campaign, which at the moment we are not seeing, ICJ and ICC taking the finger out and speeding up the processes, or they will become totally, untenable. A genuine international force to defend Palestinians. This was already demanded by Francesca Albanese in her recent report. A suspension of Israel UN membership. This was done to South Africa in 1972 because of apartheid. Israel makes that apartheid South Africa look like a picnic. The disbandment of the IOF, the Army of Occupation, a gradual effort for building a security force whose whose role is defending of the constitutional Republic of Palestine and all its citizens, and the offering of minority rights in the Palestinian Republic to Israeli Jews who, like Arada said, reject Zionism and accept equality, just peace, and Palestinian return. No national rights can be offered to them, only full rights as citizens under the law, a process through which de-Zionization is affected will be required, unlike South Africa's half-hearted Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The new Republic of Palestine will require a new, just constitution, meaning all Zionist laws, regulations, institutions, and special privileges to be totally annulled immediately. Israelis will become a cultural and religious minority with full rights, without the rights to propagate Zionism or apartheid, obviously. Those who refuse to accept an equal democracy may find a better place elsewhere and are free to emigrate, as was said before. Now, I want to end by asking a question that we are all asking. Is this possible? Can it happen? Definitely, it can happen and should happen, and will also be just and workable. The problem, as Rada mentioned, will be in the mindset of the post-genocidal population. Many Palestinians will find living with ex-genociders quite unacceptable. And who could blame them? I can't. I wouldn't like to live with Israelis myself. And I'm Israeli. Israeli Jews are so steeped in racism and Jewish supremacy that it will take almost superhuman will and social investment to set up and maintain such a republic of those two communities. If it can persist, that's what I want to say in hindsight. If it can persist for a couple of generations, and it's a big if, it will certainly survive and thrive. But the initial period will be dangerous and difficult, as we all realize. But nothing can be as terrifyingly awful as Zionism currently is, not just for Palestinians, but for everyone around, including most Israelis. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Haim. It was wonderful to hear from you.